want you to listen to the song first, uninterrupted, and then when you go back to it, I want you to see the musicians playing.
Okay, so I have two. I have the sound recording and then I have a video recording.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I am sitting down now to listen to a song called Estonia by a band, Marillion. And Vlad tells me that this band is from Great Britain and that they were the most commercially successful neo-progressive rock band of the 80s. And so, of course, I'm curious to hear how that is, how it all fits in. Now, I understand that this particular piece of music was inspired by not the country Estonia, but a ship, a ferry named Estonia, which sank. And so the song, apparently, one of the individuals in the band, and I don't know which one, ended up sitting across the aisle from a filmmaker on an airplane. And they got to talking, and it turns out that this filmmaker was doing a documentary about the sinking of the Estonia. And the band member said, why are you doing that? And the guy said, I was on it. And he was one of the fortunate few who managed to escape and survive that tragedy. So, this has me curious to see how, knowing that that's the inspiration for the song, how does it manifest itself in the music, in the lyrics, if there are any. I assume there are probably lyrics in this song. And we will check it out. So let's get started. That's nice. Here comes a flute. This could be something classical. Watery, almost like sea foam waves breaking right there.
Feeling you shake, feel your heart break, thinking if only. And the salt water runs through your veins and your bones, telling you no, not this way, not this way, not this way. And you would give anything, give up everything, offer your lifeblood away for yesterday. But no one leaves you when you live in their heart and mind. session.
It's interesting that the
You might
strings
as well talk to the
featured as the
stones and
intro.
trees and the sea.
But here they don't really come in much.
'Cause nobody knows, and so few can see. There's only beauty in
Sounds more
caring and
synthesized.
truth beyond darkness. No one needs you when they live in your heart and mind. No one dies if they just move to the other side. When we're caught, watch the world simply carry on. We live on, laughing and in no pain. Stay and be happy with those who loved us today.
Okay. There's a little shift here. It recalls a Bach piece a little bit. Interesting.
And we won't understand your creed, 'cause time is illusion. As this watery world spins around, this timeless sun will dry your eyes and calm your mind. No one leaves you when you live in their heart and mind. And no one dies, they just move to the other side. When we're caught,
Seems to be a
watch the world simply carry on. We live on, laughing and in no pain. Stay and be happy with those who loved us today. No one leaves you when you live in their heart and mind. And no one dies, they just move to the other side. When we're caught, watch the world simply carry on.
reminds me of My Heart Will Go On from Titanic.
We will stay and be happy. We'll stay and be happy with those who love us today.
I can see why they were very commercially successful. It's very rich, colorful sound world. At the same time, it's not overly complex. It's something that most anybody can relate to comfortably. And they have, at least in this particular song, they take a tragedy, which is incredibly tragic, and they put a very hopeful, positive, comforting spin on the aftermath. No one leaves you when you live in their heart and mind. And no one dies, they just move to the other side. It's a very positive perspective. And it's also interesting because I was curious to see how focused on this particular Estonia tragedy it was and how general it was. They took a very general view of it and applied it in a broader way, so that what we have is something that is meant to be comforting to anybody who has dealt with a loss. And that's the sort of music that sometimes people really need in order to just immerse themselves in it and help themselves through a difficult situation. It picks you up and it carries you along. It kind of does the work for you in a way. It soothes you. It gives you a way of thinking about something that is not so dark as maybe you might think of it otherwise. So they obviously have found a way, or did find a way, to meet and communicate and speak to a large audience. And that's a very good thing. It was interesting to me to hear the opening, which was very acoustically orchestral. Not even orchestral, more along the lines of a string ensemble, a quintet, a quartet, or something, with the flute added in, where you hear these rich string sounds, and you could imagine it turning into something all strings based and developing along the way. It didn't. It did something else instead. It went into the song form, and it was interesting to me to notice that when the song entered, the strings ended. At least that kind of strings. Later on in the music, we heard mostly synth style strings that were not so acoustic sounding. And I'm curious why did they choose to change that along the way? It's just a question, not a criticism. I guess personally I would have enjoyed hearing some more of those acoustic style strings more present later in the music. But that doesn't mean that this was badly done. I wanted to point out, and maybe I'll pull my harp out here and play something. I made a comment along the way. I said, that's echoing, that's kind of referencing a bit of a Bach piece. And it's actually one that I play on the harp. And they took it very slowly. They reinterpreted it and reapplied it. And I want to show you where it may have been drawn from. There's no guarantee, because there are lots of classical pieces with that style of playing, and maybe it came from something else, or maybe it just came from their own imagination. But I noticed a similarity that I'd like to point out to you, so I'll do that in just a few moments. But first, I'm going to listen to the song again, this time with visuals, a video recording. And Vlad says I will understand why when I watch. So let's go through it again. Here we go. It is a quartet. Notice how at the beginning you heard that bum, 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 bum. And now you hear the same thing in the bass, in the bass part. I don't mean bass guitar, but the bass part. Bum, da, 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 dum. It's a slight variation, a slight variant of the same thing as the opening. Listen. Da, 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 da. And that's how we're set up for this.
Feeling you shake, feel your heart break, thinking if only, if only, if only, if only. And the salt water runs through your veins and your bones, telling you no, not this way, not this way, not this way. And you would give anything.
Just a little comment on the lyrics here in the first verse. I'm torn between thinking, is this about somebody who has experienced this, or is this about the ship itself, the ferry itself, when it says feeling the salt water through your veins and your bones, and feeling you shake. You know, did that reference the ship sinking and becoming filled with water, or is this about somebody who has gone down with the ship, or is it more a broader picture of the entire tragedy of so many who went down with the ship? Or is it about one of the survivors who had lived through this experience, and then it feels as if it's in their bones? There are lots of different ways you could take that line or this whole first verse, and it's fun to play with the possibilities.
You would give anything, give up everything, offer your life blood away for yesterday. But no one leaves you when you live in their hearts and minds.
And now it becomes very hopeful. No one leaves you. And you can hear the percussion picking it up and the orchestra becoming more vibrant and sunny in its. Hear a little bit of flute there. And talks about live on laughing and in no pain, stay and be happy. Of course, that's talking about the ones who are gone. It's a way of helping someone to think of it in a more hopeful way.
Finding the answer, it's a human obsession.
Now we're more reflective again.
But you might as well talk to the stones and the trees.
The admission that we humans really can't come up with the answers to these kinds of tragedies.
And so few can see. There's only beauty and caring and truth beyond darkness.
hopeful chorus again.
No one turns and they just walk to the other side.
Notice how the strings here,
When we're
the orchestra is playing.
simply
In fact, I'll pause it for a moment. While the orchestra is, the strings are playing, notice how they don't have the same sound quality as at the very beginning. And in my first listen, of course, I couldn't see whether they were playing or not. Now I see that, yes, they are still playing, but obviously in the production process of this recording, once the voice entered, it seems to have been a conscious, deliberate decision to smooth out the sounds of the instruments supporting it, probably to help the voice stand out and have its message be the focal point. But I miss that less edited raw version, which we heard more at the beginning. Personally, again, it's just me. Maybe a lot of people prefer this more edited version, but that's just my personal feelings about it. And I'm not going to say that it makes it worse or better. It's just me. But that was my comment about when I said synth strings. I do believe there are some synth sounds in here as well, but they're so blended with the actual stringed instruments, it's hard to distinguish between the two. And when I was listening to the music-only version, I couldn't even tell where one began and the other ended because they're so blended in the production process. All right, let's keep going here.
when we're caught to watch the world simply carry on. We live on laughing and in no pain. Stay and be happy with those who loved us today.
Here is where I think there's a bit of a Bach allusion. And then they take it and they run with it, you know, they turn it into their own
We
thing.
won't understand your creed, 'cause time is illusion.
We even almost have a little harpsichord sound in there.
This timeless sun will dry your eyes and calm your mind.
And notice how here in this section, as the instruments recover more of their individual vibrancy in sound, the voice is backing away and being pushed towards the background in the whole balancing. It's so interesting to see how in the production process these choices are made and to think, okay, I wonder why. Why did they choose to do that? Why did they choose to put it here? What's the is there an interpretive intent, or is it just a matter of giving variety? Because variety, just as much as repetition is important, so is variety. There has to be something developing, changing, shifting, or if we go all the way to the extreme, we'll have one single note played exactly the same way all the way through, right? And of course that's an obviously undesirable extreme. But now here, there's this vast range of possibilities and how different groups and different producers, editors, all the different parts of a team that put something like this together, how they make those decisions is interesting to think about, and not so much how, but why. Why are those decisions made? And why do they decide to do what ends up being the final product? But I like the vibrancy of the instruments here. There's the Bach. More balanced on a cross.
No one dares, they just move to the other side.
You see, you feel the beat is a very soothing, calm style of pulse. It makes you want to sway with it, almost like it's rocking you in a comforting sort of way. Now what he's doing with his drums here, it does make me think of a wave washing over, and you can hear it breaking. Interesting ending. So there I have done actually my first 2 listens now to this piece of music, and there were some interesting things I found in it, but I want to take you to the harp now so that you can, I can show you what it is that I was hearing that reminded me of Bach. So let me take you to the harp now. Okay, so here I am at the harp, and I want to play this, a little part of this piece of music for you. And as I said, perhaps it didn't come exactly from this piece, because these styles of playing and composing happen in classical music and classically inspired music a lot. It's part of the way we use the building blocks of music, such as chords and melody and all of this stuff. So, but this is what it reminded me of as I was listening. And I'm going to play it. In the music that we just listened to, this Estonia song, it was slow. The notes that reminded me of this piece were being played more slowly than in the actual Bach piece. And this particular piece of music has been transcribed not only by Bach himself and used in multiple contexts, but also by a lot of musicians and instrumentalists of different kinds throughout the decades and centuries since. So you may recognize it because it's quite a famous piece of music. I'm going to start slowly and then gradually increase the tempo so that you can get a sense of how the pacing was in the song and then how it actually is dynamically, tempo-wise, texture-wise, in more of the traditional Bach style of playing it. And as a harpist, I know this piece as a prelude from one of Bach's violin partitas. Only I play it in a different key, so I think of it as being in the key of E flat. So this is where I'm going to start. I hope you can hear the similarities there. It's not quoted note for note in Estonia, but the pattern and the reference, the musical reference and allusion to this piece of music, to my ears sounds very, very clear. And I would be entirely unsurprised to find out that perhaps somebody in that band, whoever composed the music, was somewhat passingly familiar, at least, with that piece of music, if not very intimately familiar. Because to me, I feel like there is some material that has been used and reapplied in a new way in Estonia. Now about the song in general, just wrapping up this whole listening experience with the music. It's a very pleasant, as I said, soothing type of music. And I can understand why the band became so commercially successful, because obviously it's going to appeal to a lot of people from all different kinds of experiences, all different kinds of backgrounds, and it has that very comforting sound to it. And I appreciate that. It doesn't have a lot of what I would say musical, emotional depth to it. But of course, not every kind of music has to. It was a fun experience. I enjoyed hearing it. I enjoyed noticing the similarities and the differences. Of course, I enjoyed being reminded of Bach and getting the chance to play a little bit of it, even on video here. And I'm curious, I don't know what the rest of Marillion's music is like. Are they all in this style? Do they have a wide variety of styles they play in? Maybe at some point I will come back and explore more from the band. We'll see. But for now, there we are. I'll see you next time.